Hello, welcome to the podcast, Bugra and the Pangeans. My name is Lana, and I'm your today's host. I'm obviously not Bura. Bura couldn't make it today, but they will be back soon. So today, you are stuck with me, but I'm not the only one here today, as you might notice if you're seeing us and not just listening. So today with me on this Burande Pangeans episode, we have the feminist activist, the one and only, the gorgeous, the fabulous, the diva, the OG of the Pangea organization, mind you. But we will talk about it. Meet Paulina. Hi, Paulina.
Hi, thank you so much for the invite. I was super excited when I got the text, and I'm really happy to be here with you to talk on some feminism and International Women's Day. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy. And thank you to everyone that's tuning in to listen to us.
Right, there
A
better
little
be a lot of people.
education.
Yes, time to educate ourselves. Get ready. Get ready. It's a pleasure to have you. So, before we jump right into the topic, I'll just say a couple of words about Pangea and about some events, regular events, and not only that are going to happen later this month and next month as well. So, maybe a couple of words about Pangea first. Pangea is a feminist queer NGO based in Prague, and its main focus is education and community building. So basically, there are lots of different events that are happening and that are organized by Pangea, all very different. So listen to what I'm about to say and pick your poison. Okay, so first of all, next Tuesday, which is the day after tomorrow, on the 11th of March, there will be an educational session brought by Pangea at the LGBTQ Center. And next week's topic, well, actually, it will be a movie screening. It will be a documentary movie screening. I'm not going to say the name because I'm not sure I know how to say it.
Pronounce it, yeah.
So go check Pangea's Instagram. The post about the educational session is freshly out today. I know it because I checked it. And yeah, it will be a documentary about LGBTQ activists movement and people and the struggles of LGBTQ community in Uganda. And the movie, I think, is focused around the happenings of 2011 and 2012. No more spoilers. Come, watch it, and there will also be a discussion following the screening on queer identity and sense of belonging in Uganda, right? So the next event that is happening is the Queer Bazaar brought by Pangea. This will be happening on the 26th of March, and Queer Bazaar is basically bazaar. It's like a
Queer
place.
bazaar.
Yes. It's a place where different vendors, usually different small businesses, usually queer owned, have an opportunity to sell their shit. So that's it. And please come and check it out. For the vendors, if you're a vendor, if you have some craft that you create and that you want to sell, sign up. There is literally one more day for the vendors to sign up to be part of it. So please visit Pangea's Instagram page or Queer Bazaar Instagram page. It has like separate account at this point. And yeah, there will be more details and more info soon. And don't be scared to sign up. All right. What else do we have? Right, on the 27th, the day after, we are having Safa Salon, which is open mic type of situation.
Poetry, music, reflections, anything.
Yes, basically, if you have something to say to the world, if you write, or if you want to do like some sort of a monologue, or even just like tell a story, or like something that you care about and you want other people to care about as well, please join, sign up. All the information again on the Pangeans Instagram. And also, if you don't want to sign up, just come. Usually, those Sappho salons are very, very nice. The crowd is very welcoming and very warm. So, yeah, join. All right. And the last one, well, no, not the last one. I lied. The book club that is going to happen next month, because this month it has already happened. It's always the first Wednesday of the month. So on the 2nd of April, there will be a book club brought by Pangea and Darna collectives. And it's basically an anti-colonial feminist book club that is held at a safe space bookstore. There will be a post about the next reading soon. So we will definitely inform you on what to read in case you want to join. And also, if you want some suggestions on what to read, what feminist literature to read, visit the Instagram page of Pangea, and you can scroll down a little bit, well, quite a bit, and you'll find some. All right? And the last one, the last announcement is the fundraiser for Shella Radio, right? So Shella Radio is looking forward for the upgrade. And go to their page, follow the link in the bio, and donate some money because you need to support your community, right?
Always support your community.
It's always about the support of your community. Okay, I'm done with the announcements, and we can finally dive into today's topic. So today's podcast will be devoted to intersectional feminism and International Women's Rights Day, which was yesterday, right? And yesterday was a very special march and protest. In case you were not there, you missed out a lot. It was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. My favorite part was the screaming part. I
the
really
screaming
loved the
part.
was super nice. And also the walk, I think we got a lot of attention, so that's always very nice to impact and as much people as possible.
That's absolutely true. And let me back you up on the screaming part. I'm also happy that we did it twice at the beginning, at the end. And honestly, this practice, have you ever just screamed in the air?
Yeah, it's very therapeutic.
It is very therapeutic. I have never done it before. And I'm definitely doing it again. So if you hear someone screaming, it might be me. So we will get back to the discussion on the yesterday's events a little bit later. But what I wanted to start with is I would like to know a little bit more about who Paulina is. So if you don't mind giving us a little introduction, who you are, where you're coming from, what is your agenda, what are you doing lately, and
Well, so I am currently graduating from my bachelor's in international relations and human rights. I come from Mexico City, but I've been living in Prague for the past 3 years. And now I'm writing my thesis on affirmative actions for the LGBTQ community in Mexico. And right now I'm mostly focusing on research. I wrote a paper also for a feminist conference on gender quotas
Very
in
nice.
Mexico. And in general, I think my focus is on political participation of women and minorities in Mexico, and gender-based violence. Those are my topics of interest.
that's very nice. And to be fair, is it bachelor's thesis you said?
Yes.
The topic sounds really great. It sounds like something that can be actually applied to the community, and something to dig in.
Yeah, Mexico's example is, I think, pretty unique in the world in terms of queer and women quotas in politics. I think it's one of the most advanced countries and one of the very few countries that has specific LGBTQ quotas. So it's really interesting exploring it also in non-urban contexts and indigenous contexts. So it's just a layer of many things.
When you say quotas, what do you mean exactly?
It's political quotas. In Mexico, since 2019, we have parity on everything that mandates a equal representation of men and women in all political spaces. It's just from the top down, municipal level, state level, federal level. And Mexico also reintroduced in 2020 LGBTQ quotas. And not only LGBTQ quotas, for quotas for the most unprivileged groups, like older people, younger people, disabled people. And yeah.
All right. Thank you for explaining. And do you think it's being implemented? Is it implemented? Because it's one thing to have something and to announce something and to, be like, yeah, this is what we're going to do right now. It's in the law, whatever. But is it the reality?
It is reality because those spaces do actually need to be occupied by those members of the minority groups. But there's, of course, many problems in the implementation process. A lot of cis men trying to take some spaces and usurping a trans identity or a queer identity. And well, obviously there's still some resistance to it, but I think it's going on the right path. And
that's good.
Yeah.
And honestly, don't get me started on the cis man. This, I want to scream right now. So, okay, thank you very much. Would you be comfortable to talk a little bit more about your feminist background, about maybe how it started for you, maybe if you would feel good mentioning maybe some historical milestones, maybe some feminist icons or some happenings or events that happened that influenced you, that maybe inspire you. So how about that?
Well, I think in the very sad reality that women live in Mexico, it's impossible not to be touched by it. However, I think growing up, as a teenager, the conversation around feminism wasn't as open as it is now with social media, and it's really being talked about. I think for me, it really started after high school, some experiences, but also heavily influenced by the reality. We're living in Mexico these very big waves of femicide and violence against women. And after high school, I traveled for some years outside of Mexico and within Mexico. And I think it was during those years that I could start developing this. When volunteering at a school in India, me and the girls from I think from 5th grade, we had a workshop on women empowerment and sharing our experiences and tactics against sexual harassment and against invisibilization of women. And coming back to Mexico, I think also a very important moment for me was in Chiapas, in San Cristobal de las Casas, was this protest, the Women's Day protest. I've never experienced a protest outside of Mexico City. And actually living it from a more localized and smaller place kind of was very impactful. I met some very incredible women who were organizing the march there. And it was just a very amazing experience to be involved more closely to it. And yeah, after that, I think it just started slowly developing until I started university, of course, and it was just the environment of more intellectualism and all these spaces, yeah.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, you living your life as a woman of color in Mexico definitely like is already enough to be enraged and to be angry and to maybe even want to do something about it. However, I feel like a lot of times, even when you are part of some marginalized community or several marginalized groups of people, and you feel the oppression, you feel the struggle, you go through it every fucking day of your life. However, sometimes it's not enough for the individual to actually include themselves into the liberation movement or into activism or into like even into the community itself. And I myself went through it. Like obviously, it like I'm speaking from a position of a queer person who did have to go through like certain conflicts within me. I guess first before I actually could start doing something outside, you know. And I feel like community is actually what helped me to put myself out there more and to actually want to change something, or like if not change but at least help someone who wants to change certain things. And yeah, what I'm saying is that sometimes you really need to find the right people and experience, like for example what you just said when you went to the protest outside of Mexico City and you actually had a chance to experience something more local, something more maybe community oriented, something smaller, something cozier, but at the same time maybe it was even like more outspoken because it was smaller, you know what I mean? And that was one of the things that helped you to actually realize that, oh, actually I want to do it. Like I am angry. And maybe in those moments you realize how angry you are actually, you know?
Yeah, I think also one of the parts that was difficult is sometimes you don't even know the words for the experiences you're going through. And I think this was very much my case growing up. You know, you see and you experience things yourselves, but I think also in Mexico, because society is more conservative, these things stay private, no? And that's really one of the things I grew up with, no? Like the things that happen here, like these are personal, no? These are not to be like shared. And so I think like slowly opening the conversations when we share with friends and we share our experiences, and then like you realize, okay, this is not a personal thing, but this is a systematic thing. So yeah, I think it kind of help piece together experiences and feelings, and you kind of slowly start to find words for it.
Exactly. Words are super important. And like I keep being fascinated by how important and how powerful a word can be. First of all, in the sense of sometimes you don't know how to put your feelings or your emotions or your experience into words so someone else can understand it. And second of all, even like from the other side of like this perspective, for me, like there is a lot of like stuff to read, to watch, to, you know, even this podcast, you know, you are watching it through your computer. And to me, I don't know, maybe I'm too old for for this, but for me, somehow when I actually am present physically somewhere and when I hear people talk their experiences or their community's experiences and their struggles, and those are quite like straightforward things. Like there's nothing new, there's nothing I didn't know before, but somehow it just leaves a little bit different mark in your brain. And every time I'm like, whoa, like I knew it, but I also kind of needed to hear it again. You know what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just like kind of validating, no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For both parties.
Yeah, for everyone. I think that's one of the most important aspects of community and of support networks.
So since we are talking about how to enter or like how where your beginnings were with the activism, maybe there is something that you could recommend, or maybe not recommend, but maybe say to those who might be listening or watching this, and they maybe feel the need that they want to somehow be involved, but they don't know how, or maybe they're scared, maybe there is something else. Maybe, do you have something wise to say?
Well, I think as we've been mentioning, community is everything. And I feel like sometimes we feel like we need to tackle everything, but it's pretty impossible. I think it's important to start with community-based projects. You know, what's missing in your community? What do you notice the problems are around you? And what do you feel needs to change? And I think really by talking with your female or your queer friends and voicing your concerns together, you come up with collective solutions to problems you think are individual, but they're not.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you. I will add to that a little bit. Sometimes it might be even hard to identify what is lacking, what needs to be changed, because like you have the feeling that something is wrong, something is not going the way I feel it should go, something is really weird, and I feel it, and I go through it, but I cannot like get a grip of
like
it.
a group. Yeah.
Yes. So you don't have to like come up with something new and do this thing on your own or like with your smaller circle of friends. There are, luckily today in Prague, there is quite a bunch of NGOs that have so many different causes, so many different agendas, and honestly at this point you just gotta choose.
Yeah.
You just gotta choose and like go to community events, meet people, and talk to people about these things, about what you care about. And eventually, trust me, you will find the opportunity to be helpful and to fulfill this need. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay, let me look into my list that we absolutely did not discuss before, because this is not how podcast works, obviously. So, yeah. The topic is not just feminism, right? It is intersectional feminism. So, would you be comfortable to talk a little bit on like different ways of feminism that exist now, or maybe the difference between like certain movements, or like how to distinguish, how to understand what is what? Because feminism is a very big movement. It involves a lot of topics, a lot of issues, and sometimes you can find different branches, let's say, of like where this specific movement goes, and not all of them you could like maybe identify with. At least this is how it was for me.
Yeah, of course. So I think the goal is, in general terms, women's liberation from all sorts of oppression, from patriarchy, dismantling patriarchy. The difference in the different currents of feminism is how they want to get there. For example, liberal feminism advocates through legal reforms, within the existing system. For example, Marxist feminism sees women's liberation through equal treatment, like in workplaces, politics. And intersectional feminism recognizes that while women do share the experience of being women, there's multiple layers of one's self that accumulate and result in, I guess, like a bigger inequality. You know, we have to consider not only our sex, our gender, sexual orientation, our race, where we're from, age, like this, recognizing that these layers accumulate and result in a different experience.
Yes, and have a different impact on the individual and on the society.
Yeah. And a little bit more on intersectional feminism, which I think is mostly, well, what I see in Prague, most feminist NGOs are intersectional.
They better be.
Yeah, they better be. But I think it also depends on which part of the world you find yourself in. I think mostly in the West is focused on liberal feminism. I think Latin American feminism is also pretty unique in not only the shared Latin American women experience, but also the struggles we face, which are very unique from those in other parts of the global south. And I think this applies for every region, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You started talking about how Latin American feminism is its own thing and it's very different from anything else. And since you are coming from Mexico, and my next question would be, how could you like characterize the like differences between, let's say, Czech feminism or European feminism and feminism in Latin America? If you compare the approach to the issue, if you compare the community, how the community works, how the community building works across like the continent and maybe within one specific country, and yeah.
Well, I think obviously the context is everything here. And well, fortunately, here in Europe, feminism can develop within more solid democracies and more solid institutions. Feminism can at that point focus on things like pay gaps, on better opportunities for women, like extended rights. Unfortunately, in Latin America, and in the specific case of Mexico, feminism is, well, contemporary feminism, because feminism has existed for many, many years, is born out of an urgent need. Feminism is born out of an urgent need to tackle the insane violence and epidemic of violence against women. In the 90s, Mexico started seeing the surge of this wave of femicides in the border, and it quickly escalated into a full-blown national crisis, in which the only way to tackle this is through creating and making this movement like stronger with each time. I think that's the main difference I see. Feminism is vital in Mexico to try to stop. Like, it's actually more focused on physical like safety. You know, if women get killed, then we cannot move on with next rights. Like, we cannot focus on gender pay gap when there's 10 women killed a day.
Yeah, there was like this huge trigger of increasing femicides that was the point when people were like, okay, we gotta mobilize now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's in the past years, decade, you can really see how much the feminist movement has grown. Like, not only in Mexico, but in Latin America in the last decade. I would consider it the most important social movement at the time. And it's not only about the femicides epidemic, but also about the government response. No, it's a way of taking justice into own hands. Because it's not only that these crimes happen, but these crimes are left unpunished. So this perpetuates a cycle where women are portrayed as second-class citizens, and where there's this implicit message that it's okay, that nothing's gonna happen, that you can kill women, that you can harass women, that you can rape women, and
no one will do anything
no one
about
will
it.
do anything. Yeah.
All right, that's very dark, but thank you for sharing that. I think it's important to talk about this stuff, even though sometimes, the events that happen, the triggering points are very disturbing and very hard to even wrap your head around it, but it's still happening. There is a lot happening in the world right now that we have to wrap our heads around and do something about it. Multiple genocides, wars, oppression, apartheids. So, yeah, sometimes those things happen, and in response to the resistance in response to that is like the most strong one, the most visible one, because like it's not bearable anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I also remember at the beginning when you asked like on feminist icons,
Yeah.
and for me, really, my biggest feminist icons are the mothers of the victims of femicide, the mothers of victims of forced disappearance. And really, these women and these mothers put their lives in the line to search for justice for their loved ones. And it is incredible, like an incredible task these mothers do with their own resources, risking their safety, mobilizing throughout the whole country to find for justice for their loved ones. And it is really, really, the feminist movement wouldn't be what it is today without those women.
And that's one period. And how do you find feminism here?
Well, I think I was reflecting really on this. Like every 8th of March, I reflect a lot on people's perception when they see feminist mobilizations. And I get the feeling that people are very detached and desensitized on the feminist struggle, because as we talk, like in Europe, we have conditions of equality between men and women, like women have made it more far, there's no concerns, like no extreme concerns of physical safety. And so I feel that society kind of becomes numb to what is left to do, which is so much. And even though in Czech Republic there might not be something extreme happening, there's still many, like many patriarchal oppression here. I see from my perspective, many injustices. In the law for queer people is terrible, like here in the Czech Republic. So I think people kind of forget and just think because it's not happening to me, it's not happening. And I don't feel like it's taken as seriously. Fortunately, I think what Prague has is that it has so many young people, and it has people from all over. Prague is a very international city. So as you said, I think these people bring their own experiences and their own struggles, and they group here, and there's so many groups fighting for many, many causes. And I think that kind of nourishes the feminist movement here. That is, it's very complete, it's very intersectional, and yeah, I think there's like this more modern, international, young aspect of the feminist like movement that clashes a little bit with the traditionalism of here and kind of the numbness to social movements that I get the impression that it is here like this.
You're absolutely right. It does fascinate me as well that actually a lot of like NGOs and a lot of collectives and a lot of people who are active at trying to do something are actually expats or immigrants, or like they're not Czech. And it fascinates me for the reason because, I'm not Czech either. So and you are not. And look at us here
No one
talking
is
about
Czech.
feminism, Prague, and in Czech Republic. So, and yeah, I guess people really do bring their experiences with them. They bring their anger and their sense of their will to change with them when they move, and then we have something beautiful like protests on the International Women's Days, because it didn't really happen before, or did it?
Well, when I arrived in 2022, I remember the protests were like really 60 women. I think or like 50 people on Charles Bridge.
Pathetic, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Like, we can do better.
I was so shocked. I just like I haven't experienced like how Women's Day was like celebrated like in Europe, and it was
We're gonna talk
truly
about it.
it was truly shocking to see how little impact feminist had on society, like feminism had on society. Like people really seemed very uninterested on the topic.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure, and that also says a lot about Prague's activism, that I thought that there were like no real like protests before Pangea actually started, like on the Women's Day, International Women's Day, when Pangea started to like actually like do something and mobilize people. And at first it was, as you say, like 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 of people. But then over course of what, 3 years now? Or was it the 4th year?
Yes.
It was the 4th year. So over the course of 4 years, now look at us. There, like, I don't know the attendance yet, but I will. I love numbers. But it felt like yesterday there were like maybe 3, 4, maybe even 500 people.
Yeah.
Is it true? Like this, but this is
Approximate.
very approximate. Like, I'm also dumb. I cannot estimate anything. So to me, it felt like the protest, it absolutely could be bigger, but at the same time, it was very, very decent, and I was so happy to see so many people to join. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it also plays a huge role, like the context of International Women's Day in Europe, and more specifically in the Czech Republic, is seen as a day of celebrating women, and you see women with their flowers going around, and these men. And
These men.
Yeah, and these men just, yeah, I mean, I understand this a cultural thing, but I feel that this contributes to the tribalization of International Women's Day and what it actually like stands for. And I think one of the reasons why also like the International Women's Day March like started to grow was bringing the different feminist collectives together, and also finding a cause, finding like introspecting, okay, it's not only International Women's Day, but what are we standing for? What are we demanding here in Prague? Like, okay, we all bring our struggles from wherever we come from and whatever our identity might be, but we must not forget that we're also in the Czech Republic. So what is it that Czech women feel they need, no? And it's also important to not only voice our concerns that we all bring, but also voice what's happening here.
Quick question. Do you think that this is what is missing at this point in the Prague? Let's focus on Prague for a little bit. In the like feminist movement within Prague or Czech Republic, is the like lack of the actual like real message that could be addressed to some really specific issues that happen here? Do you think that that's missing?
Yeah, I think.
Or is it there, but it's like early to like, do some conclusions about it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, from my non-Czech ignorant perspective, yeah, I think for a movement to be successful and to be impactful, and especially like a march, you need to have a clear message and a clear agenda. And so it is important to kind of group ourselves and reflect on what our requests are and for who. For our government, do we want to sensibilize society? Do we want to sensibilize men? Are we pushing for a certain law? Are we pushing for certain legal reforms on the side of the government? And also, as we talked a little bit at the beginning, it's impossible to tackle everything, no? And at some
Absolutely.
point, I feel like we need to focus on one thing per one thing.
Something more concrete, something more specific.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like if you keep saying about like all the stuff
Yeah.
in generals
Yeah,
of generals
pay
of generals,
gap and
yeah,
equality
and
and
people will
it's
be like, yeah, right, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah, we know,
Yeah.
and not do anything about it. So yeah, that's I agree with you. What I have noticed that, and what I really really loved on yesterday's protest, we like for those who missed out, losers. There were so many beautiful, brilliant speeches before the march and after the march. There were different collectives and organizations, NGOs in Prague who used the opportunity to speak on their own, like the issues that they face more than like others, maybe, or some causes that these specific organizations are focused on dealing with. And one of the, actually, were there two speeches? There were two speeches that were focused on Roma women's lives and Roma lives in general, and that was really really important message. I believe like that is one of, this is what you are talking about. This is one of those issues that this fucking country needs to start figuring out more and needs to shed more light, need to talk about more, because it was so, I'm gonna hate what I'm saying right now, but it was so refreshing to hear someone speak on the struggles of Roma women and girls in education, in like growing up, in being abused, in not having the resources or the access to even certain like medical procedures. And speaking about medical procedures for Roma women in Prague, like there is this huge issue of how you say it, forced sterilization,
Yeah.
which is insane, and it's not talked about enough. So it was really really nice to hear that, and to have those people speak on these topics. And we need more people like that who will actually be willing to speak and to be more included into like international feminism, but with their own perspective, and to like be there more and talk more and be visible more, because that was really lovely, and I feel like it was important. So yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the most, well, on the topic of intersectional feminism is good in theory, but is best in practice. I think really with intersectional feminism, the challenge is to take it out from the books and actually apply it. And what this means is, of course, our voice is the most important tool we have. And if we are in a position where we can use our voice to echo the demands or the struggle of certain minority groups, we should do it. We should always do it. But I think on that note, it's also very, very important to be sensible and to also understand that echoing the struggles of a certain group does not gives us the position, and we should not feel entitled to talk on behalf of another group.
Absolutely.
That's not us. Always, if there's the opportunity, invite someone from that group to talk about their experiences. Not only because we are educated or we're Western or we know these long ass words and have read 1,000 books on feminist theory, means that we are the best to voice those concerns. So that means opening up spaces and even giving up your space to someone that needs it more. And on that note, I feel like this is only possible if we start to de-hierarchize our own organizations and we move towards more horizontal forms of organization. Because when we are so hierarchical within our organizations, we end up taking spaces from people who actually like urgently need them. So I think that's the best way of helping these groups is giving them a space, opening up spaces, stepping down so they can step up.
That is very, very well said. Thank you for saying that. Indeed, visibility is important, representation, but then sometimes, exactly, you need to amplify others' voices, and sometimes it means to put your voice to the background, to put it aside and step aside, because there are people who might need it more at this very moment. So yeah, thank you for saying that. And in terms of the I'm not gonna nail it. The hierarchy.
Yeah, like I struggle so much with that word.
So that.
Yeah.
The structure. That is also a fucked up one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, can we swear here?
What?
Well, it's too late.
Yeah.
I guess we can now. So to the
hierarchize.
That what she said, and to do that, it is really important to practice the intersectionalism not only within like our mindset or within like our practices when we approach certain issue, but also within the feminist community. What I'm trying to say is that, like, let's say there are like 3 different organizations and all 3 are feminist and all 3, let's say they're intersectional, but do they work between each other? Do they have connections between each other?
Yeah.
Are they for the same are they actually talking about the same thing? Are they on the same page? And that those are things that also, in my opinion, need to be shouldn't be overlooked. And when they won't be, then our community will become stronger and our voices will become louder. So, do you agree?
And I think intersectionality is impossible to take to practice if there's not the right conditions to do so. If we keep falling into patriarchal power structures and we hierarchize our own movement, then it brings us nowhere, because at the end, these kind of forms of organization are not attractive to any minority. Like, as a brown woman, I don't feel represented by a European white woman, and that is the truth. And it is important that all the voices are heard, that we are really aiming for representation in powered positions, in positions of leadership. Like, that is what true intersectionality stands for. Like, to really, really, I think it's at some point also the problem of individualism in the West. I think the feminism is understood more on an individual note than on a collective one, as it is the case in the global south, however they want to call it. And I think we should truly always aim for collectiveness, for collective solutions, for ways of organizing and acting
as united.
On
the individualism part, solid. I cannot agree more with you. I do think that individualistic type of thinking is a fucking cancer that needs to be cut out from our lives, because it at the end it doesn't do good to anybody, even you as an individualist. Like, if you really really think about it, like, yeah, you are protecting your peace, yes, you are concerned only about like the issues that are affecting you directly, you and no one, no, maybe not even anybody else, or like if yes, but like a smaller group. And but then how are you supposed to like fix certain issues when unfortunately everything is systematic, and when there is one issue there are 101 other issues that are interconnected with that one, and you will not be able to fix it without actually at least addressing, at least acknowledging those other ones that shocker will be connected to racism, homophobia, transphobia, all of it, you know. So
Yeah,
individualism gotta go. I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, all sorts of oppression go hand in hand, as well
Absolutely,
as
yes.
liberation. Uh, Liberation of women is just like a butterfly effect that affects the whole society and benefits the whole society. And I think there's a phrase I really love that really encapsulates it, and is feminism is not about what we individually want, but what we collectively need. And I think it's always very important to keep in mind feminism is not about us. Feminism is for racialized women, is for migrant women, is for Roma women, is for brown women, black women, Asian women. Feminism belongs to the street. We cannot keep feminism on the books and on the theory and in these elite niche groups, because at the end
It will not make sense.
we're only impacting the small community and the small minority that represents. And at the end, I feel like I noticed that a lot in the West, that you need to have 3 masters and 2 PhDs in feminism, and you are the best feminism and the one that has the right perspective.
Congratulations, you have your star. You are the best feminism, the best feminist in the world. Now what?
Yeah, but
Like, you know what I mean? Exactly. As you say, it does belong to the streets. Like, it has to be accessible as well.
yeah, exactly, because if we close ourselves within this intellectualism and all this, then it doesn't reach anyone. Like, it doesn't reach the people that actually need it, because it's completely out of the reach. You know, you're putting it here so that no one can reach for it. And yeah, I think that's also like an important part of feminism. At the end, the feminist struggle does not belong there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Thank you for sharing that. We have just 7 minutes left, and I'm thinking, what should we talk about more? Since we are in Czech Republic, and whether we like it or not, we should talk about it, I guess. And I have like one of the topics that is left is the actually stigmatization and the stigma that is connected with the International Women's Rights Day here. And we already talked, you talked about it a little bit, but maybe we could dig in a little bit more. So how do you think we as individuals and also as like parts of collectives that fight for freedom and liberation and for the good cause, how we could change the stigma that is present in Czech Republic specifically, and also in a lot of other post-Soviet countries, where International Women's Day it's actually not an International Women's Rights Day. It's literally like a Women's Day where like you give a flower to your grandmother, to your mother, to your sister, to your, I don't know, high school teacher, and that's it. Like, that's it. Nothing is going on. And like you celebrate women, but actually it's like some sort of a token that you like use, and then you forget about it for another 364 days. And that is a big problem for like women included, in the sense that this is how a lot of women in Prague and a lot of people in Prague think about International Women's Rights Day, that it's like some sort of another patriarchal attraction that is called to I don't know, tokenize women on this specific day, and that's it. So how do you think that we could break it?
Well, I think we need to charge International Women's Rights Day with the political context that it needs. I feel like here, the way it's celebrated is just fully stripped out of its political component, which is all the component. And I think as society, the first step is educating ourselves on the feminist struggle, on women's problems in the Czech Republic, what's needed. And the second part, I think it's also on the hands of not my government, but the Czech government, to also like talk about this, to give it the importance that it means. I feel that plays like a huge role in sensibilizing people and conscientizing people. I don't know the word in English. And I think this is a tactic I've been seeing in Mexico. People, whether you like it or not, you cannot look away. It's on your face all the time because it needs to be. The government also like promotes it, it educates on the topic. And on that note, for example...
By education, you mean like in a political sense?
Yeah, and also like launching educational campaigns on
cool.
violence against women, on pay gap, on education of women. And for example, in Mexico, we not only have International Women's Day on the 8th of March, but we also have Un Día Sin Nosotras, or A Day Without Us, on March 9, which is a day where women don't collaborate to the economy, to see how that would look like. If 10 women are killed a day, then how would it look without women? And this it is estimated that it had an impact in 2020 of over 1.5 million.
Damn.
Pesos. Yeah. And
Okay.
it is actually I think that was an amazing initiative that the government has now officially recognized last year. And
So
this
it's happening every year now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It started as a social movement and as an initiative, and it has now transformed into something that the government fully recognizes and whole society recognizes.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I really love this.
Yeah. It started in 2020. It only has like
So
5 years.
Really, it's very young.
Yeah, and it really has a huge impact in the workplace, at schools, in the street, like in politics, like
Literally everywhere.
yeah.
Czech Republic, time to wake up. Guess what's happening next 9th of March?
Yeah, and it's creative, and it is a very effective way to get to society.
Oh, yeah.
And not just to a few, but to whole society.
Because everybody will feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now suddenly
Yeah.
everybody knows what it's like. If like there were no women, let's say.
Yeah.
Like nobody showed up for a job. There's
Yep.
no one to fucking do shit. So and in this way people actually like feel it on their reality and they're like, "Oh, wait.
It's
It
present.
actually concerns me too." Shocker, I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have just 2 minutes left till the end of this episode. So I'll just use these 2 minutes to thank you very much for joining today. Thank you for this conversation. I think it was very, very productive and very important to have it. So thank you very much, Paulina.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for Shella for creating these community spaces where we can voice our concerns. And yeah, shout out to all the women in Prague who have amazing initiatives, to all the women who mobilize, to all the women that advocate for liberation for everyone. And yeah, I think
And that's
that's
it.
it from
And
my
that's it. And that's
part.
that. Okay. Thank you, everybody who was joining, who was listening and watching. Hopefully, very soon. Next time.